Okay, everybody, so this is our first episode, and I wanted to just kind of give this disclaimer off the top. It's not perfect, but bear with us, please, because it will get better. There's a few moments in here that I thought were really funny. I couldn't help but leave them in and not edit them out, so I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. Our first episode here, we're going to be talking about God's Not Dead and a couple other Christian-based films. And with me right now, I've got my son, Connor, here to just tell me what he thought because we watched it as a family.
I like it because a lot of people now know that God's not dead.
That's a good intro. So without further ado, here is our first episode of Remember That Movie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Remember That Movie, a podcast about movies where my wife and I are just going to sit here and talk about movies that we like, movies that we don't like, and hopefully by the end of it, we can help you decide whether or not you want to remember that movie. I am Jesse Keene.
And I am his wife, Vera Rose Keene.
What now?
And we're the Keens.
And we're the Keens, and we just had a baby. 2 days ago, we had our 7th child. And now we're home and we're like, what should we do? Well, let's add another thing to our schedule and make a podcast. Hopefully he'll stay quiet while we try to do this. So a few days ago, or right before the day he was born, yes, is very true. The day he was born.
The day we went to the hospital.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The day we went to the hospital, we sat down and we were watching God's Not Dead with the kids. All of us were sitting there just having a little family time watching a movie. And spawning from that, we're like, this is definitely how we have to start this thing out. So today we're going to be reviewing God's Not Dead. You're going to learn a little bit more about us throughout this, and we're going to talk about our top 5 favorite Christian movies or religious-based films, and then we're going to go in and talk about some of the worst Christian religious films. So that's the agenda for today. Anything else we need to add? I guess it's too late to go back and add now. All right. God's Not Dead. Came out in 2014. It's a drama. It's rated PG, and it's got an hour and 53-minute runtime. Comes from PureFlix. They do a lot. They do a lot of movies right now. Stars Kevin Sorbo, David A.R. White, Dean Cain. These are some of the bigger names of the movie. And it was directed by Harold Kronk, who did God's Not Dead 1, did God's Not Dead 2. He also did God Bless the Broken Road, which I've heard is a very good movie. What are your initial thoughts about what this movie is? What do you think about it?
Well, I think it's a good movie. We decided to watch it with the kids because it shows some real life situations and how people go to God for comfort and go to God for strength, and also what the whole movie is about, just defending God. And so we thought it would just be a cool learning experience for the kids. Yeah, it actually convicted both of us watching it, just how we aren't faced with those situations that some of the characters are. And I know for me, that's what I thought, just that life right now is pretty easy. Just I don't have to debate with a lot of people about what I believe and why, and I actually should be. Because I should be going out and talking to people that don't agree.
Yeah, in that regard, it's definitely a convicting movie. For those of you who don't know, the plot of the movie is a kid in college has a philosophy class. First day of the philosophy class, the teacher tells everyone to write down on a piece of paper that God is dead so they can get the silly notions of religion out of the way before they get into the deep, real human stuff about philosophy and the way we as humans operate. And this kid, convicted of that, says he couldn't do it. So the teacher then tells him that he has to defend his position in a debate format of why God isn't dead. And then every other side story in the movie revolves around that same argument and that same dilemma that these two men are having in their debate, which is, it's really cool. There's a lot of different stories going on, probably 3, 4, 5 different stories, and they all blend together really well to bring about the point. In a very, it's very Crash-like, in that all these different stories, they all converge at the end in different ways, and it impacts all of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good job. And everyone involved does a top-notch job in terms of what they were given and what they were asked to do.
Right.
It's definitely one of the top-notch Christian movies out there, I think. I don't remember the subsequent sequels that came. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh.
But none of them left an impression the way that one did.
And for me, it wasn't, like I said, the kids could watch it. There were some things that were intense, but it wasn't too bad. You know, they could watch it and learn. Whereas, like, there are other Christian movies, Passion of the Christ, it's just too much for a little person to see.
Far too much.
So.
And a lot of this, I mean, our kids are still pretty little. A lot of it went over their heads.
Right.
They didn't quite understand what was going on in a few of the different areas, but it still sparked conversations, no doubt.
Yeah. We were able to pause it and explain some things and just discuss what was going on. So, and of course, I like Newsboys.
Huge Newsboys. 2014 was huge for Newsboys and Duck Dynasty.
Yes, Duck Dynasty. That was great.
It's a powerful movie. It is. I mean, a few of the issues that I had with it though would probably be the main character. I can't remember his name. Josh. The main character, Josh. When he decided to do this, he said his family told him he shouldn't. His girlfriend's constantly telling him he shouldn't. Everyone around him is telling him not to do it because he's committing academic suicide by going up against a professor in debate form. He never really explains to them, primarily his girlfriend, who plays the main voice of opposition towards him, why he feels like he needs to do it. When he's talking to anyone else in the movie, he explains his position. But when he's talking to her, he's just silent. He doesn't say anything to her, and I'm just like, man, just tell her how you feel about this. I mean, she's a Christian. She should be the one who understands. If you would just explain it to her, then maybe she'd be on board with it more. And I get it, like the point of they needed her character to do what her character did regardless, so he felt lost. But it did at times look from his perspective. I'm just like, man, you're not even defending your faith against your own girlfriend, but you're defending your faith to this guy. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, I can see that.
He just didn't say anything. I was just waiting for him to say something in those few scenes. And then I told you as well, again, they needed it for the plot. I understand. Everyone who wasn't a Christian was in a lot of ways the worst kind of not Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Like very cynical, very mean, very hateful.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't, not everybody who doesn't believe in God is a horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
Most are
Right.
not. But
yeah.
all the characters we've seen in the movie, again, I understand Christians listening to this, you don't gotta give me all the hate you got.
Mm-hmm.
They needed those characters to propel the story. But it just seemed...
Yeah, just not realistic.
It just seemed unrealistic in a lot of ways, yeah.
I can see that. Which was funny, though. The Muslim dad was actually more hurt than, like, the non-Christians about his daughter. You know what I mean? Their story, like, it showed him crying, and he was upset.
Everybody was broken. Like, at the end, like, the redheaded girl who... Spoilers. The redheaded girl who had cancer, by the end, her life was changed. We don't see the fruition of that. And then, like... Kevin Sorbo's character, everything that happens with him. Dean Cain's the character I don't understand why he's so evil. And that's probably the weakest side plot of all of them. The side plot between Dean Cain and his mom.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't in there, it wouldn't have made a bit of difference to the movie.
Well,
everything we needed from this person who despises Christianity, we get in Kevin Sorbo's character. We don't need another character who's the exact same thing. This money-hungry mongrel who just hates everyone and is heartless. That scene with him and his girlfriend when she says, I told you this. We paused the movie and said this when she said she had cancer. And he's just like, well, that's too bad. I'm out. I'm like, even in real life, people do not do that. And I'm sure somewhere in the world it's happened. I'm not saying it doesn't. But it felt so unreal that it just pulled me right out of the movie.
I see.
Like he could have been sad for her and still not wanted to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't need the blatant, and maybe it was just the way it was written. The dialogue was just like, well, this isn't working out for me anymore, or it's those lines that...
Right.
Yeah,
people don't actually say that.
People don't say that stuff.
They just act.
Or they don't say anything.
Right. They show that in their actions, not their words like that.
Yeah. That was just a few things that were hard for me
Mm-hmm.
to be okay with. And just because it's a Christian movie and I am a Christian and you are a Christian, doesn't mean we have to be okay. It's a movie. I'm going to critique it like I critique any movie that I watch. That's why I think for a lot of, I know for me personally, a lot of people, a lot of those Pure Flix movies are kind of hard to watch. They're so low budget. I love what they're doing. I love where they're going. I kind of wish they do more with what like the Kendrick brothers are doing. Put more money towards one movie as opposed to divvying all that money up and doing 15 low budget things that are okay as opposed to doing one thing that's really, really good. But they're trying to go for the audience of believers. I mean, they're trying to reach the audience of Christians who they're just trying to make good content for us to show our kids, stuff like that. I get it. I do get it. It's just not something that I can sit down and watch very easily.
Right, all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Okay,
Yes.
so let's go into the next little talk that we
boy.
have.
All right.
5 best Christian movies. Okay, this is your own personal perspective. Keep that in mind. 5 best Christian movies. What do you have for number 1?
All right. Well, number 1, probably not a surprise.
I think it's number 1 on any believers.
It would be Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, that's my number 1 too.
2004.
Same here.
Passion of the Christ. Same year.
Same here.
Oh.
Same year. No, that came out a long time ago.
Yeah. It's just, it lines up with scripture. It's the reason why we are Christians, and it's truth. And, of course, Mel Gibson did a great job.
I mean, it's lightning in a bottle. It's one of those things where you can see something bigger than everyone involved
Right.
working through it, which is great, especially when you look at Mel Gibson around that time frame when he was just a mess. Right before that, right after it. So yeah, it's an all around great movie. He's a great filmmaker. Anyway, we already know that. We knew that from a number of other movies he's done. It conveys the story well.
Yes.
All right, number 2.
Okay, so number 2, I have War Room. 2015 War Room, about a family that they say they're Christians, but they've turned away and not following, and so things in life just start going downhill, and they start making bad choices. And through the friendship of an elderly lady, what is her name, Miss Clara, she kind of helps the wife see her need for God before she can change, or she can't change her husband, but she helps her see her need for God and her relationship with God needs to change before any other relationship in our lives will change. And it's a really powerful movie, very emotional, and so it's very emotional and very convicting. So that was
Again, coming from the Kendrick brothers, they're really good at what they do. You can tell they've been given a huge gift to make these things happen. They're on a stride with the movies that they have. It's a really good movie. Yeah, I like it a lot. My number 2 would be 7 Days in Utopia.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good one. You can find it on Amazon right now. I didn't go to the lengths that you did with finding out the year it came out and things like that. But it's about golf. It's got Robert Duvall and Josh Lucas. Is his name Josh Lucas? Where's my phone?
I'm gonna do it.
I said it out loud and then I'm like, no. Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift kid. It's not Josh Lucas. That's the guy from Lucas Black. It's Lucas Black. Wow, that was bad. Lucas Black plays a young golfer who begins losing and runs away from everyone he knows and loves, particularly who's his father, who is his trainer and kind of caddy. The movie goes on and he's learning from Robert Duvall how to play golf. All the while he's infusing different spiritual elements into his life. And it's really, the story's about a father and son. Those movies get me every time. That's why it's huge for me. And how that can literally break a relationship if the father's not focused on the right things. Great movie. I recommend it to anybody. It's one of those movies I could sit down and turn on any minute and just stop everything and watch it. It's a great movie.
I don't remember that one.
It's because you won't watch it.
We'll have to watch it.
I try to tell you. Number 3.
Okay, so number 3, I have 2008 Fireproof.
Oh, Kendrick brothers again.
They just get me. Yeah, I remember when this movie came out, I was not married, hadn't even graduated high school yet.
Oh, gosh.
And I just remember sitting in the movie theater crying.
Oh, jeez.
Kirk Cameron. Yeah, he's a great actor. But, so it's about a marriage that, I believe they're Christians too, right?
Yeah.
And just, right. And just have fallen away from God and chose to sin instead and chose to live in sin. And so their marriage is suffering because of it. And so the movie is just about the couple healing their marriage with God and forgiving. And it's just a great encouraging movie. And I don't think you have to be married to see it. Like I said, I hadn't even graduated high school, but even then I saw the need for God, and I saw the need for God as center in a marriage, and I really like that one. Okay, number 3 for you. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Where'd you go? I miss you so. What in the world? You left me hanging.
Sorry. My best number 3 is Facing the Giants, also coming from the Kendrick brothers back in 2006. This is their, I believe, second film right after Flywheel. So this is when they were doing a lot more low-budget stuff because they didn't have the kind of money they do now. Great movie, sports movie, football. You already have emotion driven by the sport aspect of the movie. And then you couple that with the spiritual walk of the characters involved, especially the main character. Great movie. Fun to watch. I know a lot of people who like that movie. A lot of people who don't even consider themselves Christians like that movie because even just the sports stuff is that good. So I like it a lot. We'll move right along with it. It'll be seamless, I promise. So, Facing the Giants.
Okay, Facing the Giants. I don't remember that one as much.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry.
That's a good movie.
I do remember the one scene that I really like.
Which is the football scene.
Yes.
The crawling scene.
The crawling scene, yes. That's a great scene. Yeah, football movie.
All right.
I don't remember.
Go ahead. What's your number 4?
Okay, so number 4 for me, I have The Shack, actually. 2017. So obviously just the movie. I have not read the book. I know nothing about the book.
Yeah.
I would assume it's similar to the book, but
Well, that's where
the movie is what I'm talking about.
that's where a lot of the controversy comes from for that movie too, is from the book.
Right. And that one is just about a father and a mother who it's about a family.
It's mostly about the dad losing his daughter.
Yes, it's about the dad losing his daughter. She was young.
Yes.
His daughter.
Tragic.
And how he went into depression and how God brought him through it. I mean, but I just like how they show the different characteristics of God and just the God 3 in 1 and just how they showed each one. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. My number 4 is The Case for Christ, the Lee Strobel true story about his life.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did a very good job with that movie telling his story, and that book has been very influential in our circles, Christian circles, especially from like the perspective of different pastors and different things like that. But that's a very convicting story coming from. It's about a man who was an atheist journalist, and he set out on a journey to prove that Christ wasn't real, that the story couldn't have happened, and that the Bible is all just a big fake. And all along the way, it did nothing but prove the opposite, and his life was forever changed from it. which I think is an incredible. That came out in 2017. Lee Strobel's Case for Christ, great movie. And then I'll go ahead and I'll just share my number 5 because you already shared it as your number 4, which is The Shack. I know there's a lot of theological issues with the book. That's been a huge position for debate for a long time within the church. But I thought the movie did a really good job handling a lot of that content in a better way and presenting it from a better perspective, and really clearly showed how we as believers are called to have a relationship with God, and giving that vivid image of what it looks like to walk and talk with him, even though it's something we can't do right now in that way. I thought it was a really good allegory for that whole story.
That's what I was trying to say.
What's your number 5?
So my number 5 is actually Case for Christ.
Oh, nice.
I think, like you said, it showed just the struggle he had and trying to prove it, and obviously God is real, so there's no denying that. So
Good job.
wow.
Nice.
A lot of these movies I haven't seen in a long time. So
A long time, I know. We need to get back into it. That's why we watched God's Not Dead, and both of us were like, I haven't seen it since probably about 2014, 2015. But some of these we'd like to go back and revisit. I know I've watched a few of them. 7 Days in Utopia is one of those movies I'll turn on when she's a Bible study or when she's out with the ladies and I'm just home alone and I want to watch a movie. It's stuff like that I like to turn on. So yeah, remember these movies, guys. Go out, check them out, watch them again. They're all very good movies. They are, and that's not even all of them. There's a lot of others that, honorable mentions. Overcomer. There's a movie called Risen, which was written by the same guy, actually. The guy who wrote the screenplay for Risen wrote the original Red Dawn back in the 80s. It's a story of the soldier at Christ's tomb and had to investigate the disappearance of Christ's body after the resurrection. It's a very good movie. Very well made. Any other honorables?
I can only imagine.
Okay, yeah. And I guess I should have said it up front, but this is a lot of this conversation is coming from the fact that the new Jeremy Camp movie, I Still Believe, which kind of hit theaters and then didn't hit theaters.
Corona.
27th. I don't know if this episode will be out as of the 27th or not. Baby crying. We gotta sing him a song. My little buttercup. There's a vague movie reference for anybody who knows that one.
He looks mad though.
I Still Believe. Yeah, we plan on watching that one and seeing what that's like. I'm sure it'll be good.
Oh yeah.
There's another. Oh, he's happy. Yay. There was another category that we wanted to talk about. I couldn't necessarily name 5 for this category, but I still wanted to talk about a couple of these movies. Worst Christian movies ever made of all time, in our opinions. This is not official. Right. It's officially ours. What's one that you can think of? What's your number?
So,
what's your number 1?
An older one, 2003, and I picked Flywheel.
Oh no, you're gonna get a lot of flack for that.
Probably.
A lot of flack.
Only because it's been a while. Again, like all of these movies, I haven't seen them in a while, years. But from what I remember, it was just the production, and that's just because it was one of their first.
They didn't have any money.
Right.
And they weren't good at it yet. Yeah. I understand.
So I remember being young and watching it and just being like, oh, okay.
It definitely doesn't have boring. Much rewatch value, rewatchability because of those things for sure. I remember the story being good. It was very basic. But they were, you can't say anything other than the fact that this was them getting their feet wet in an industry that they now do very well in. Like it's not a bad movie, but it's definitely, in terms of those things, when you're looking at it from a critic standpoint, those are notches against it, not for it. But this is our first podcast. It's probably not going to be very good. Let's just be honest. Hopefully one day we can be fireproof and overcome our value in podcasting, because they've done big things and great things coming off that.
So we'll have to watch that one again.
So I had a couple that I want to go ahead and say. Everybody who knows me already knows what I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, do I know you?
Ridley Scott, Exodus, Gods and Kings. Bad movie. And now we're looking at the opposite end of the spectrum from Flywheel. This is Ridley Scott. This is the guy that brought us Alien and, I mean, the highest grossing movie ever made before Avengers Endgame. # Marvel. Avatar. These are incredible visual movies. Ridley Scott also brought us Exodus, Gods and Kings. Bad movie. Stars Christian Bale, John Turturro, Joel Edgerton. All-star cast of white actors, heavy spray-on tans, and retelling the story of Moses leading his people out of Egypt and the plagues and all that comes with it. And then the other one is Darren Aronofsky's Noah, which starred again. It was an all-star cast being led by Russell Crowe. And the biggest hits that these movies get, and they were multi-million-dollar production movies, is that they just weren't true to the source material. Noah especially went way off into the weeds. Giant rock people. Just bad.
That's what I've heard. I haven't seen them.
So looking at it from the perspective of a Christian who believes the stories of the Bible as real events that took place, and then you go and you just butcher them that way. It happens to anybody. Stay true to the source material. You're going to make you're going to make a better movie if you just stay true to the source material. That goes for any source material.
The Shack?
Ooh. Why are you shooting holes in my...
Sorry.
I mean, I did though. That stayed true to the source material.
Okay. I don't know.
It just didn't.
But
it didn't change the source material. It's going to leave things out because you can't put everything in a book and a movie. You just don't have the time.
Okay, I see what
But
you're saying.
completely altering the source material. If the Hunger Games films would have been about a boy instead of a girl,
right,
that would have been a completely different movie that wouldn't have worked.
Mm-hmm.
The Hunger Games are great examples of really good movies that stay true to the source material, and we've also seen examples of not staying true to source material where fans of source material get really upset when you don't stay true to that source material. Nobody speaks up. Start speaking up, Christians, and go tell Ridley Scott that it's an awful movie and stay true to the source material. Please.
Please.
I'm very upset about these two movies. Do you have any others? Those are really the only two that I had because of how egregious they are.
Yeah, that's all I have.
With a wink. So anyways, that's our podcast for today. It's short, it's brief, and it's all over the place because we're still trying to figure out how to do this. Stick with us, it will get better, we promise. Do you want to tell them where they can find us? You do remember I told you. I told you where they could find us.
I don't remember.
Remember That Movie on Facebook. Will they find it if they type that in?
Probably. Let me look.
You can find us on Twitter at Remember That Movie, RMR That Movie. Hit us up there. You can also go to our website, rememberthatonemovie.com, or rememberthatonemovie@gmail.com. Drop us a note there so you can kind of get an understanding of what we're going to be doing. We're going to do this podcast and talk about a specific movie that will be reviewed. And then also what I want to start doing here in the near future is doing a deep dive written review of that movie. Hopefully newer movies coming out in theaters to where you can go find in-depth stuff about the movie, especially in terms of content and whether it's an appropriate movie that you can say take your kids to or not, depending on the movie. And also it's theological background and see where the movies are coming from. That's kind of my heart's desire on that. So you can go to rememberthatonemovie.com, see there are a couple of reviews I've got up there right now. You will find God's Not Dead up there as well, so you can kind of read that deeper than what we've talked about it here on this one. Please hit us up on one of these platforms and comment on us. Tell us where we do good. Also tell us where we need to improve because we care about all this information.
Just be nice.
Or don't. Nope. Gosh dang. Appreciate all you guys listening. Your verse for this week at the end of the podcast. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your words. My soul knows it well. Psalms 139, 13, and 14. Thank you guys for listening. Come back next week to hear what we're going to talk about. Thanks.
Bye.